Hello and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and we're very glad that you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. We have with us from Hawaii, Eros Christos, who is a healer, a visionary writer, and he does sound healing in a way that, let me just say this. Right now, having just come from a master session with him, I'm feeling profoundly relaxed. If you see me just settling back a little bit, you'll understand why. He, in a fairly brief period of time, managed to move me through some very interesting spaces, dimensions, and information sources, if you will, that I needed to experience for my own self-growth and development. And I felt somehow he managed to tune in a very powerful way to the essence of what was going on and is going on inside me, articulate it, and then bring me to yet another level in my own consciousness. So we're very glad to have Eros with us today. He's here briefly in New York, doing sessions and working with people and teaching at the Wainwright House and other locations, and will be speaking with us today about his work. So glad you're here.
Thank you so much. Wonderful being here.
Great.
Yes.
Good to have you. Aloha.
Aloha.
As we say in New York.
That's it. Aloha is fine all over the world, actually.
Exactly.
Because it's the divine breath.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And it conveys the sense of welcome that even shalom does, or salam for that matter, isn't it? It's that.
Yes. The true meaning of aloha is really that.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is. It is. So what brought you originally from Sweden? What brought you to Hawaii in the first place? Mangoes, papaya, beauty,
hula.
Yes.
Well, I left Sweden actually almost 35 years ago. My parents moved to Germany, and I moved with them to Germany. And then later on, my parents died at a fairly young age.
Oh.
And I've always been an explorer. I always believed in finding out what really made me tick. I was very interested in understanding what my life was all about and why I was here.
Yeah.
And
In fact, you just reminded me that one of the books that you have written is called Adventures in Consciousness.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So
yes.
That's an expression of what you're saying.
Exactly, exactly. And that has really what my life has been all about, an adventure in consciousness and understanding really who I am from a human point of view, and also taking that on to a different level. And because of those questions and that quest for really understanding and knowing this, it took me on a journey to different countries and different places, and I met different people, and eventually I started to meditate and do yoga, and then I was led back to the United States. I came for, I thought, a short visit 20 years ago. Lo and behold, I haven't really been back to Europe since, and in a week's time I will go back for the first time in 21 years.
Oh, is that so?
And do a workshop over in Switzerland.
Oh, that's so interesting. What I neglected to mention in the introduction is that Eros has been involved in the spiritual path quite formally through a relationship with Baba Muktananda for some 20 years, and has also been writing for all these years.
Yes.
And another, I think, essential point to make here that's been part of your consciousness path is your relationship to the dolphin world. And you have been a person involved with cultivating that relationship between humans and dolphins. Could you just share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I get chills when you're sharing that, because the dolphins to me are really multidimensional travelers. And I was sitting on a beach several years ago in California, and out of the blue, basically, I started receiving these messages. And then it said the dolphins. And it was...
When you say in messages in your head.
Well, this is the best way to describe it. Yeah. Being that I'm a writer, I do translate things into words, but I couldn't really tell you, Mitchell, exactly how if it came in images or in words, this is the way I translated it into some sort of understanding.
Yes.
And then these messages kept on coming, and the funny part was like I didn't see a dolphin until almost 10 months later. So I kept on receiving all of these messages, and they were playing with me and saying, soon you will be playing with us in the open ocean, and I was expecting it to happen. It didn't happen. Later on, they told me that the reason why we did this, we wanted to prepare you in order for you to understand really how we communicate with people. That you had to let go of the expectation, the way we would interact. And when you understood that, then physically we could start playing with you. So it was really like a teasing game for almost 10 months.
So interesting. It was like they were preparing you.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
And then the gate opened.
I would say so, yes. To put it mildly, yes.
Just to get to the bottom line, Eros, what if you were to synthesize their messages to you over the years, what do you feel that the dolphins' message has been that you have received primarily?
One of their first messages was that where there is true love, shapes and forms disappears, and left is only our smile.
Wow.
So they really are emphasizing that as humans, we need to take the responsibility for the planet, for the environment, and knowing that we are divine beings. And they are here to co-create together with us and allowing us all to move into a different way of being through spontaneity, through joy, and through playing with them in the open ocean.
Isn't that something? Now, do you think that all dolphins are, in a sense, on the level of assisting humans, or that's just a select group, just like, in a sense, there are only some humans that are doing what they can to advance our evolution or our species?
I think that...
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And I think, Mitchell, that as a general, the dolphin consciousness is a very advanced consciousness. And then as humans, they have ambassadors, certain species or certain
individuals. Okay.
Yes, in a big pod, there might be certain of them who are preferring to interact with humans.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes.
I'm aware of John Lilly's work and others in the creation of the Cetacean Nation.
Right.
Which I'm sure you're aware of. And
yes.
Could you comment on that and what you think its role could or should be?
Well, again, as I mentioned to you in the beginning here, the dolphins are, in my way of looking at it, multidimensional travelers. In short, they have the capacity within the ocean to move in and out of different realities. So what the whales and the dolphins are doing, they're building an energy grid underneath the ocean that corresponds with an energy grid in the physical universe. So as we are moving and shifting into a different understanding of who we are, these grids will help tremendously to align the human consciousness to a higher frequency.
Oh, God, is that...
I know it sounds like science fiction, and yet it feels so natural.
Yeah.
That's something I don't understand myself. What I'm sharing with you feels really so natural and so clear. At the same time, my intellect could really start taking this apart. My God, what is this? And all of that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because when we suspend our intellect and allow our guts, if you will, our instinctive, natural, nature intelligence speak and be, what you're saying is a perfectly harmonious kind of statement. I mean, why wouldn't every animal makes its own contribution to the total picture? Right. Beavers dam, everybody does their own thing. And why wouldn't it be that mammals under the water wouldn't be composing, if you will, an energy grid to help humanity and all sentient beings.
What this reminds me about when Roddenberry started doing the Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
It obviously changed a lot for people how they perceive the universe and traveling through different dimensions. And to bring it down to this level...
Wormholes.
Right. Now, Dr. Dolittle with Eddie Murphy, these movies where he speaks to the animals. And now a second...
I love that.
Oh, it's great. And now a second sequence comes out. And to me, that is another way of sharing with people in a very comfortable way. Eventually, we will be able to talk to the animals again as we are growing and tapping into more really of who we really are. So I think movies have a very profound importance, and that many movie makers now are tuning into the spiritual aspect and allowing themselves to create movies that maybe are not necessarily only making money, but allowing us to see a different way of understanding the larger picture.
Exactly. I mean, there are more and more independent filmmakers, actually,
Right.
who are very creative artists and who may not have multi-million-dollar pocketbooks, yet have these infinitely valuable ideas, such as what you're saying, that open up the paradigm
Right.
of what is true and what is possible.
Right.
And on that note, this is probably a very good time to hear a little bit about the book that you've written that is perhaps soon, it's certainly being considered for film production. Could you share with us a little bit about that?
I would love to, because it's my baby, so to speak.
Yes.
It's titled Time is Promised to No One. And it started about 20 years ago, in 1979. I had a very, very real experience where I died and was reborn at the same instant. From that moment on, I spontaneously started to write. You can call it automatic writing or whatever, but it came in a very different way than I would ever have imagined. And so I started on this story with the two words, well, doctor. And out of that has come this, to me, very, very profound and very loving and very beautiful story titled Time is Promised to No One. And it is a love story to life. And at the same time, it pushes the buttons, allowing you to take a look at certain things that you might not feel totally comfortable with, and it encourages you to really understand that we are more than we've been led to believe. As a matter of fact, when I was writing it, I felt like I was living in the Twilight Zone, because I realized something very profound to me was that, let's say I was in a situation in my life where I was emotionally down, or my life wasn't working, quote unquote, the way I wanted it, yet my writing didn't reflect that. So it was like I went to another part of my being, and then when I came out of it, I had to deal with, oh my God, I have to deal with this, I have to deal with this, and it was very perplexing. Right, exactly, things like that. Yeah. So I was trained basically to live in two realities at the same time, and not saying that one was more important than the other. And so that's been a really interesting journey.
God, that's a real learning in itself, huh?
Yes, it sure has been, yeah.
Now you have some people who've been expressing interest in producing this.
Yes, I have some people in Los Angeles who are reading the story right now and shown some really a lot of interest, and I might have a producer as well. And intuitively, I know it's happening, because I've been led by my intuitiveness for most of my life, and I learned to trust it. And that's something else with the dolphins. When you swim with the dolphins, interact with the dolphin energy, you are really trained in your intuitiveness. It sharpens your way of trusting your intuitiveness quite a lot. So to me, it's already done movie.
You've seen it complete.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's very beautiful, and that's how they say things actually come into manifestation. You see it as done, and
that's it.
So it will be.
Yes, that's it.
You know?
That's it.
Absolutely. I feel that there's really something about, there have been a number of people actually, Eros, from Hawaii, from the different islands, who have been in New York over the past few months, very interestingly, more than in the many years I've been here, I have seen. And I have a feeling that there's some kind of message in that. Some kind of vital, symbolic communication, and real one, that has to do with informing New Yorkers and this energy that's on the East Coast with that which is from the South Pacific. Are you gathering anything about what I might be talking about?
Yes, it's the same thing like with the whales when they move from one place to another. As I mentioned, they create these energy grids.
Yeah.
People who are living in Hawaii, there's a lot of people there who feel very connected to Lemuria and also the Atlantis consciousness. So I think that as humans, as we're awakening more and more, we are doing exactly what the whales are doing underneath the ocean. We are traveling to different places, and we are changing the energy by just being there and sharing certain informations. Because as humans, again, we are so much more than we have really been led to believe for quite some time now. So we are operating on different levels all the time. And so I see that it's happening because underneath New York, there are some very sacred burial grounds. And it is time to allow them to become more activated in a conscientious way, and bringing the energy of the East and the West more and more together in a harmonizing way. Because the Hawaiian Islands is, in my understanding, a very sacred vortex.
Yes.
And the Hawaiian traditions, the Hawaiian dance of the hula and the language has been clouded in the modern technology and the modern way of looking at things. And now it's coming out more and more because in the Hawaiian schools now they're allowed to teach the Hawaiian language again. So the huna, the hidden knowledge, is being expanded upon more and more. So I feel that it's really important that people have connected to that energy, is starting traveling to places like New York or Europe or wherever it might be to share that part as well.
Right. I understand. It's almost like the ancient trading routes.
Absolutely.
Where, yes, they were trading in spices and teas and all sorts of commodities, but perhaps the greatest fertilization took place through culture.
Right.
That music and art and people and language were, and spiritual beliefs
Correct.
were being exchanged with people of otherwise rather isolated perspectives. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, we are connected but isolated. So when
right.
people from another area come in the flesh
right.
and speak the way they see,
mm-hmm.
It really helps to inform us in this area.
Yes.
You know, it enriches our lives and opens up our perspective. You see, we don't swim with dolphins in New York.
Oh, you don't? Not in the Hudson River?
They died a long time ago. No. So to even have somebody here on this island
mm-hmm.
Speaking about that idea of swimming with dolphins in the
right.
open ocean, no less,
right.
is just flutters through us in itself.
Yeah, and you asked me about the message of the dolphins, and that's part of their message, is to make people understand to live like a dolphin pod on land. Basically what that is one heart and one mind. Mm-hmm. Give you a very funny example. When the dolphins swim in the open ocean, suddenly one of them might take off to the left. The rest of them are not saying, "Hey, wait a minute! You know, you led yesterday. It's my time to lead now." You know, they just follow because they are one heart and one mind. At the same time, they are really very beautiful individuals. And we as humans, when we can learn to do that and not feel threatened by if somebody says, let's take to the left here, and be in flow with the overall way of being, life would be much smoother. And we can live as a dolphin pod on land. You know?
Yeah. You're actually reminding me, and if I will share with the audience a little, perhaps personally, what happened for me in the session. Because I was basically lying down, and Eros was voicing around and on top of me, and using his hands to some extent, and then stopped at a certain point to share with me what he was picking up. And he felt certain resistances in different parts of my body. And I noticed that I was resisting hearing what you were having to say. In a sense, I didn't want to hear that, and so we had double resistance going. And wouldn't you know it? But so I took it in, and not that it was easy to, but I said, look, I'm here to receive this, and you're here to give this. Let me receive it optimally and get the most I can out of this moment. And so with that, I went back in when we reconnected and went back in, and I said, allow this. And with the simple utterance of those words internally, the whole thing shifted for me. When it was good at the beginning, and then, as they say about the Dharma, it gets better toward the end. It really started to open up more, and I went into an incredibly deep state. And I also felt my body joining with the ideas of what you were sharing, having to do with the opening up and the bringing together of the heart and the mind, and becoming more united.
Right.
As you were talking about just now, the dolphins.
Right. Exactly.
So metaphors upon metaphors.
Yeah.
On the micro and the macro levels.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah. So here we just see it reflected in every place, that this is the story that we humans need to hear about bringing the heart and the mind together. The Chinese just have one word for that, which is heart-mind. They recognize even that we think with our hearts. But that's where thinking happens. You know?
And I think it's very important to recognize how technology is used in our world today. It has its purpose, but it's almost like it's overrun everything else. The human contact has gotten lost in computers, cell phones, and the way people are talking to each other. People are not talking to each other anymore, they're talking at each other. And for me, there is no real progress if the human factor is not part of the entire equation here. And I think that most people are in such longing for the connection, and they don't know how to reach out because they're not being taught or encouraged to step out of the norm. And the dolphins have a tendency of bringing you right back into your heart. So that's why that work for me is very important, because I really believe we have to come to some understanding about how technology is used in balance with the human values.
It is so true. If you're looking at a computer screen all day and then you turn to a human, it's a very different kind of experience. It's a different dimension.
Right.
One's flat, one's multidimensional. And people hide behind whether it's a computer screen or a television screen or what have you. And actually, that's why it's pretty powerful to use the medium of television and video to bring on subjects of this sort and this level of conversation. So we're shifting, actually, this is a humanizing process instead of a deadening process, But I think the point is really well made. It's really so when you do workshops in different locations, is this part of what you're bringing forth? Is the dolphin intelligence, the dolphin communications?
That's definitely one part of it, and as I mentioned earlier, that the dolphin consciousness has a tendency of allowing people to not feel threatened by opening up and becoming vulnerable to their own teachings deep within themselves. So I just am the facilitator, and then I'm being guided whatever I have to do, depending a little bit, of course, on the people and the energy in the room.
Sure.
So again, it becomes like being very flexible and be very spontaneous in the moment.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, of course, you're being dynamic,
Right.
with a particular group at hand,
Right.
and at the same time, you're bringing forth. I mean, since dolphin intelligence has been so much a part of your life,
Right.
and your own growth, it seems that you would be bringing that forward.
Yes.
Especially in places where dolphins don't swim, like Switzerland, New York.
Well, they swim in the ether, though, you know.
Yeah, exactly. They're around. They're around. By all means, it's beautiful work, and I feel like you're just like decked out with dolphins. I mean, it's
Well, you know, there's no really real difference between what I portray and who I am on the inside.
Yeah, yeah, right. You wear yourself in both
I
places.
guess that's one way of sharing it, yeah.
Well, I swam with dolphins back in the Amazon.
The pink dolphins?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Pink dolphins. Back in the late 80s. A group of us were down there for harmonic convergence and had that experience of being with them. And it really does. It does bring you into your heart. It's so beautiful.
Yes.
You know, even to see them, just to look at that face, you know, those faces are just, it's a smile. It's like a permanent smile, like you were saying before. You know, they say when all shapes and forms disappear and all that's left is a big smile.
That's right.
You know, it's really beautiful. Well, believe it or not, I mean, coming into at least a temporary conclusion, I want to thank you for the work that you're doing in this world, and I want to see that writing take the form of a film. You know, I think that is good, and we're going to broadcast that, if you will,
Good.
as an idea, so it effervesces into the universe.
Very wonderful.
Yeah. In closing, Eros, would you like to just share with us a little bit, whatever it is that's in your heart that you would feel you would like to communicate to our audience?
Yeah, I feel very strongly that, as I mentioned through the program here, that all of us will start coming together more and really respect and honor who we truly are, knowing that deep within us we are divine beings, and we are here on this planet for a very, very specific purpose at this point in time, because there are changes and transformations that are taking place. And it's not advisable anymore to deny these changes. If we can embrace the earth, ourselves, and all of these transformations with love and respect and without fear, we will truly be part of a magical journey, and it truly will be an adventure in consciousness for all of us. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for joining us on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Well, swim with that intelligence, will you? Thanks so much for joining us. This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. A Better World makes money, you know, it pays for itself in a sense. And this is only when people want to. I wrote this to you, right? I wrote this out in the email.
I don't know. I don't know.
To Sharon. Oh, okay. Very simply, those arrangements.
Sure. Yeah.
Now you talk, because I have to just look at you for a second.
Oh, okay. So, with other words, when can you give me the? You could give me a copy before I leave.